Hey guys, today I'm going to convert an Orruk Megaboss into an Ork Warboss from the Freebooters clan. He is going to be equipped with a Power Claw and a Rocket Combi Shuda. His Shuda will be custom made with Space Marine and Adeptus Mechanicus bits. Make sure to keep watching to find out how to make it. The first thing I'm going to do is remove this skull from his shoulder. As cool as the skull is, I think it looks too fantasy for my Warboss. I'm going to try and remove it without destroying the skull because I think it would be a cool bit to have for the future. To remove it, I started the cuts off with my spruce snips. Then I used the hobby knife to cut the middle section of the skull off the shoulder. Once both sides of the skull are off the shoulder, I will fit the shoulder pads together. This will let me know where I can clean up the cut without putting a hole through the shoulder pad. For the armor, I will cut off the jaw at this seam to make it look like a collar. The rest of the armor, I will be cutting off or rounding out any pointy parts. When making these adjustments, I will be using my spruce snips and hobby knife to remove the bulk of the material. To clean the cuts up, I will be using a file. A good trick to clean up the file shavings off the piece is to take Tamiya's extra thin plastic cement and use a little amount over the shavings. It will melt the shavings off without wrecking the piece. Now that the armor is being rounded off, I can glue the model together without the front chest piece. I'm keeping the front chest piece off so I can make adjustments to the neck easier. I was going to use a head with a flowing ribbon off the side of it, but the ribbon hits the collar, so instead of cutting the ribbon off, I'll just use a different head from the same Flash Gets kit. Now, when you get a new piece for your conversion, don't just cut it out and then glue it on like me. Make sure you clean the mold lines and bits of sprue off. Now that it's cleaned up, I can glue it back on. For filling the gaps on the shoulders, I'm going to use Vallejo's plastic putty. I haven't really used this for big gaps before, and I don't know if I didn't let it dry enough or I used too much on the shoulder that had the skull on it, but when I went to file it, it just peeled away in clumps, so I would have used something like green stuff or milliput. That being said, it worked great on the gap for the other shoulder and the gap on the back. The only reason I had to fill the gap on the back so much is because I wasn't thinking. When I was rounding the rest of the armor, I rounded the top of that plate, not realizing it was in the middle of the armor panel. While the plastic putty is drying, I'm going to work on the Power Claw. I'm just going to use the Power Claw that I found in my bits box. Since I will be using the arm on the Warboss, I will need to cut off the arm that's attached to the claw. To make that side flat on the Power Claw, I just filed it. There was just a little lip on the wrist that I needed to trim to make flat. Once those were flat, I could glue them together. When it came time to clean the excess plastic putty off of the shoulders and back, I used a file and sanding stick. The file worked on the shoulder and back, but when I went to file the shoulder that had the skull on it, the file would just peel the plastic putty off. I tried the sanding stick after, and it worked way better. For the rocket part of the Combi Shuda, I'm going to be using this rocket jetpack from the Ork Stormboys kit. I'm going to attach it to his wrist. As you can see, it fits pretty good, just needs a small adjustment by filing down the wrist guard and the rocket to sit flush against each other. Now that they fit flush together, I'm going to cut the wings off of the rocket to make it look less like a jetpack and more like a crazy mashed up rocket launcher. I've got the rocket launcher cleaned up, so now I'm going to pin it to his wrist so it's a better connection. A good little trick so your pinholes line up is to put a little drop of paint on one piece and then fit the pieces together. Then when you pull them apart, both pieces will have a dot of paint where you need to drill your holes. With the dots in place, I can grab my pin vise and drill the holes and glue the pin into the rocket. Since it will be easier to glue the gun on without the rocket, I will leave it off for now. For the gun, since I didn't have any normal Shudas in my bits box, I'm going to make one from the Space Marine and Adeptus Mechanicus parts. The Space Marine parts are just normal Space Marine guns, and the Adeptus Mechanicus parts are from the Tech Priest Dominus kit. For the main body of the gun, I'm going to use this Space Marine gun. To elongate the Shuda, I will use this Tech Priest bit. For the barrel, I'm going to use this barrel. To add some flair, I'm going to add this Tech Priest bit. Now since I'm going to be using the hand from the axe, and I don't want a big orc with a tiny Space Marine hand, I'm going to cut the hand off. Just make sure not to cut the body of the gun up while cutting off the hand. Since I'm also going to be adding bits to the end, I will need to cut the barrel and other bits off. The iron sights on the gun will need to be removed so I have a flat surface to add the bits to the top too. I was putting the gun together and I thought the gun was going to be way too long, so I cut down on the piece and shortened it up. To keep it from getting too long, I'm going to shorten the barrel just a little bit as well. Since I have the tube on the top of the main body of the gun, I won't be able to fit all of this techie bit, so I'm going to put just this orb style one on the back of the gun. Now that the gun is put together, I need to attach the hand. While the gun is drying, I'm going to attach the WA banner. Since freebooters are all about the banner life, I'm going to put this banner on from the Flash Kits kit. To make the banner fit on the back, I'm going to cut the little knob off so I can pin it. Once the pin is glued and dried, I can trim the pin to size and glue it together. Now that the glue is dry on the gun, I can attach it to the model. I'm going to attach the gun first. When the gun is attached, you can really see how the gun was going to be way too long. Even with shortening that weird little piece, it still sticks past his feet, which I'm okay with because I'm going to be putting him on a platform on the base, so it won't be in the way. If you wanted to shorten the gun even more, an easy way is to just shorten the barrel. Also, I will attach the rockets. I'm going to use super glue on the pin and plastic on every spot that has plastic on plastic. The Warboss is basically done now. If you wanted to stop here you can, but I think he could use one more bit to add that freebooter flair. I'm going to put this skull and crossbones on his shoulder. To make it sit better on the shoulder, I just need to flatten the back off a bit. Once that's flattened off, I can glue it to the shoulder. All that's left to do is paint and base him. Since I had to elevate him, I decided I would put him on a dock with water below him. I also cut the rock off his foot because it wouldn't look natural on a wooden dock. To accommodate the gap from the rock, I just added a layer of wood to look like a step. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and check out my other conversion I did to make an easy weird boy. The link will be in the description. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave a comment.